we were thinking on our way here as well, how we first met, and I think we had an invitation from you the year before, and somehow it didn't work out. But then when we eventually came, we did a train trip down from Seattle.
Yeah.
Right.
It was fun.
Right.
I think it's one of the best train trips in
Beautiful.
Was
the
it?
States.
I thought maybe when you rode an American train, you'd be like, what is this?
No, that was fun.
Lakes along the way. And,
But what I
What's
remember most of all is just such a warm welcome. And I think that there was, it's probably because we were both at a similar place in our journey, something that there was just such a connection. Certainly for me, many of the concepts that were so fundamental to my understanding of God, of myself, of life, was at that stage being deconstructed, and that's often quite a nervous and a fearful journey to go through, but wow, has it been beneficial. I think you come out of that with such a much more honest faith, and that's really what I wanted to throw open today. And
Well, it's nervous and fearful. Absolutely. But what are your options? Dishonesty.
yeah,
That's your option. Your option is to go, no, I'm secure here. Even though that would be a lie, and who knows where that would lead.
yeah,
But the truth of coming into new revelation that surprised you.
yeah,
I mean, completely surprised you. And at first it was joyous and it was awe-inspiring, and I had all this vision of, oh my gosh, our church is just going to explode with growth because this is what we're looking for.
yeah,
Right? And it turned out a little different than that. But yeah, when I invited you, I needed to meet somebody that wasn't in the conversation that I had been having for so long.
yeah,
You know.
yeah.
And yeah, I remember you coming down. It's funny because I remember your picture. The first time I saw a picture of you, you were holding a little espresso cup. It used to be kind of. I think it was a picture on one of your books or something.
Yes.
And you're in Belgium or some cool place. But yeah, I was so excited to have you guys come, and I didn't know that you were.
Yeah.
I figured you were light years ahead of where I was thinking, what I was experiencing,
Yeah.
and you were going to prisons and kind of stuff, you know, and being surprised,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But
What I remember that the discussions that we began with as well. I think the excitement that God is so much more than what we ever imagined Him to be before. But before you get to that place of excitement, I think it's that shocking reality that the God that I've always conceived, the God that I believed in, I don't think that God exists
right,
anymore.
right,
But then at that moment of honesty, to actually become aware of a God so much more than the concepts we've had of Him. And so maybe one of the questions I want to ask of you and is, can you think of one idea or one concept that has been about God, that has been true for you for most of your life, that completely changed around? And we can just do one. I'm sure we can do many. I have many. But
sure.
yeah.
I think that probably, I don't know that it is a clear construct, as much as it was something was implanted in me as a child, and that was the idea of exchange, the idea of merit, the idea of needing to be pleasing.
Yeah.
And we all have our family issues that come into that,
Yeah.
sense of abandonment, sense of needing to please, and wanting to be loved, wanting to find just the essence of what it means to please your daddy type thing, you know. And my dad was distant because his dad was distant, you know, so on and so forth. But I think that's what drove me and I mean literally drove me
Yeah.
from the time I was very young.
Yeah.
You know, I needed to be as pleasing to God as I could possibly be.
Yeah.
I tell people today, and it's probably an exaggeration, but that I don't know anybody that went harder than me.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
I went as hard as I could possibly go.
Yeah.
And believed as much as I could possibly believe. And I remember one time I was in this job I really liked, and I was also in ministry, and the guy that I was serving with took another church down south and asked me to go with him, and I had this desire to not go,
Yeah.
but I had this also thought that I just fast forwarded to the end of my life,
Yeah.
and I was going to answer for what I did with my life,
Yeah.
and to do something I really wanted to do, or something that I kind of wanted to do.
Yeah.
Well, I always chose. The longer I lived, the less I did things that were fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, I always loved to study, and I
Yeah.
loved music. And fortunately, there was lots of that,
Yeah.
and lots of music and lots of study. And so those were my two, survival things. But I probably wandered off your
No,
question.
mostly if it was fun, it wasn't quite.
Yeah,
what
and
was
I was raised
expected
as a
of you.
child. I was raised that way.
Yeah.
You know, if anything was fun, I mean, it was called into question.
Yeah.
It was worldly and
Yeah.
fleshly and so on and so forth. You know.
And I don't know where that gets instilled, and I don't know if it is intentionally, but that is undoubtedly the experience of many people that grows up in a
It's fear. It
Christian
has to be
kind
fear,
of-
right?
yeah.
It has to be fear. I mean,
Somewhere.
I was fearful of God.
Yeah.
Man, as a kid, I used to lay
Yeah.
awake at night thinking, God, if Jesus comes back tonight,
Yeah.
holy crap. I'm like 8, 9 years old.
Yes.
You know, I'm in trouble. I'd get out of my
Yeah.
bed, get down on my knees, and go, God,
Yeah.
I'm in trouble. I'd smart it off.
And it seems like that fear works for a little while. For some people, it works for many, many years. But
I never
ultimately-
identified it.
Yeah.
You know, that's the thought. You talk about thought. That's why it wasn't cognitive.
Yeah.
I just assumed it.
Yeah.
You know, this is the way. It was that guttural thing, and like I said, you know, fast forward to how many years ago? 6, 7 years ago, when my own child, you know, flipped me the bird.
Yeah.
You know, over and over and over and over and over again, the love of my life, my children, right? But what happened in that whole thing was that God used that to show me that I was being a father in the way that I thought He was a father,
Yeah.
and that was I was trying to earn. I wanted them to serve me and praise me and love me,
Yeah.
and I had that idea of God.
Yeah.
Which is, and I mean, this is not completely different, but if you listen to most of the music that's popular in contemporary Christian worship circles, it's all about buttering God up at some level.
Yes.
And it's so pathetic. I mean, you're a father out on a Father's Day, and they bring you all the gifts. You feel kind of chagrined a little bit, like everyone's putting all this praise on you and stuff. Can you imagine demanding that? 24/7? Bring me gifts, bring me stuff, tell me how nice I am.
Yeah.
It's
Just
absurd.
insecurity.
Oh my gosh! That's how we have portrayed God.
Yeah.
I grew up with that, and you did too.
Yeah.
And isn't it interesting that we'll treat people according to the God we worship?
You have an option.
Yeah.
Not if you're truthful, you will.
Yeah.
You know, and I used to always think about double-mindedness. I remember one time, I don't even know if it was the Lord. I used to say it was from the pulpit actually, but I would say. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. And I used to think, man, if I could just get to double-mindedness, because I'm like, no, I was in the, what's that song? These guys would know the popular song on the radio says something like, "I'm 1,000 different people every day."
Yeah.
You know, and I used to find great. Condemnation because I'm such a chameleon.
Yeah.
I can just in any situation I mold right in, whatever it takes. And I think all of us are more so than I knew. That I felt so hypocritical because I can fit in almost any group and I get what they're doing and I'll just become like them and be there. which I think is a good thing.
Yeah.
You know, in some
But
way.
there was a shift in you. I remember you saying when your daughter,
Yeah.
when there was that inconsistency,
Yeah.
and you faced with a dilemma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what is the change? What?
Yeah, I just began to be interiorly deconstructed. That's the term everybody uses, but that's almost that's kind of benign. What it was experiencing, it was like I was being killed.
Sure.
I mean, it
Yeah.
sucked in every way. I hated.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I hated what I was doing. I hated pastoring. I started being. I began to exhibit anger at people, and I mean, just a great big, you know what, to these people. And it started catching me off guard because my world just kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller. I didn't trust anybody. You know.
Yeah.
And I got to the end of it, and like you know, I've told you before. One day, I just said out loud, kind of to God, that I wasn't sure I believed in anymore.
Yeah.
Because nothing was. I said, you know, this is not working.
Yeah.
Everything I'm doing has just turned to shit.
Yeah.
You know, my family's exploding. Church is bad. I don't even know what I believe here. I'm 50. I think I was like 55, 56 years old, and my whole life is like just a spinning vortex of unknowing.
Yeah.
And I hate this.
Yeah.
And so I quit.
Yes.
And when I said that out loud, you know how every once in a while you hear with your inner man, and you know, it's happened a half a dozen times in my life, but that was one time.
Yeah.
And the Lord, I believe, said to me, "That's a good idea."
Yeah.
And when he said it, you know how there's a volume
Yeah.
of information behind that, and I'm like, "A good idea? What does that mean?"
Yeah. So the fundamental thing I think that we, in your testimony and in so many people's experience, is going from this place where, for whatever reason, you've developed a conception of a God who has certain expectations, who demands a certain kind of behavior, demands a certain amount, commitment.
Right.
And I think that is what we've seen, a fundamental shift in what many have now called the grace movement, or, you know,
Sure.
some of these labels are so arbitrary or so broad.
They are.
But within, there is a group of people who have become aware that instead of that image of God, what they encounter in Christ is this self-giving grace and generosity that meets us wherever we are, whatever condition we're in, and without any prerequisites, just pours himself out upon us. And that is, I think, one of the most radical shifts that we can ever come to in our view of God. And that is something that many people have experienced. But you would think that that's just good news. But I think there is that place where it is devastating to everything that we've been, everything we've strived for, everything we've tried to achieve. It's almost like the picture of Israel within the wilderness. I mean, we've been here for 40 years. We're enjoying this environment. There's miracles, there's supernatural provision, but in spite of all the miraculous, they're still in their wilderness, not experiencing that place of rest, not experiencing that place of fulfillment. And I think when we first started touring in the US, we became very aware of how many people have moved out of that mindset. And in my conversation, you know, there's also a lot of criticisms of the grace movement, and of course there's going to be, you know, extremes in every direction. But I would say that is the core of what has happened to many people. Instead of perceiving God as the one who demands a certain amount of commitment to, who's watching our behavior, suddenly we encounter the one who gives himself fully and accepts and embraces without any of my performance.
And that encounter is it's how do I say it? For me, and this is probably true of others, but the initial encounter was so liberating because it was very similar to several other encounters I've had in my life where my paradigm was expanded or obliterated in some ways.
Yeah. And the whole idea of it, he is the kind of God, as in Genesis, so in 1 John, that evolves into our flesh, that becomes part of our human life, that enters our chaos and our confrontation and our contradiction, and in the midst of that calls us to greater beauty and to greater meaning in life.
It seems so ridiculously slow. In fact, part of my journey back to the original conversation has been anger at why it took so damn long. Here I am in my late 50s. You know, I was as sincere as I could friggin' be. Why didn't you tell me this when I was 30? You know, really. I mean, it's like, and how do I know that I'm just not off on some other tangent now? And leading other people, because I was angry that I had led people the wrong way. Because I didn't want to do that. And here I am, like, that came crashing down on me, not in guilt, but just frustration. I wasn't. I mean, I did the best I could, and that was the solace I could grab, was that I did the best I could. I raised my kids the best. I tried to be a good husband, sometimes. But I got to the place where it was just too, I didn't have an answer. And what you're talking about, the fundamental answer of the essence, ontologically, foundation of all things, to me, that's essential. So when we're talking about things like this, it's not just, it's not just ivory tower stuff. It's real life. Because I'm a but person. And then you keep backing it up. And Paul talks about the fullness of time came, God born in the flesh. Like, what was the fullness of time? What was that about? How is this the fullness of time? Maybe because people were so fed up with religion that, or so filled with it that they would actually kill God. Maybe they wouldn't have done it before.
Wow.
I don't know. But it just didn't seem like the time was ripe at all. If he showed up now, it seemed like it'd be a good time.
There's
Run for president.
Beautiful about that whole idea. Like, what did you expect? Almost is for God to come and just intercept a journey where you take you by the scruff of the neck and say,
I did.
I want to present you a new idea.
That is what I
But
wanted.
there's something really beautiful about the fact that there's a call to participate. And it's a call to participate even in your own life, to be present in your journey, to that invitation to let's do this. There's a possibility here you haven't thought of, and a journey that's not just prescribed or
commanded.
This is all controlled and all set out, and you just you may not know it now, but
that sounds so easy because you're in that thought and you've been in that thought for some years. But the difference between that and obedience, we used to sing as little kids, trust and obey, there's no other way. But there's no such thing as obedience. Trust is obedience.
Exactly.
That's what. There is no other. It's. But I couldn't do that.
Isn't that incredible? That God's vulnerability, that He gives Himself over to us.
Right. And lets us go our way. He's so confident. He's just, and He's secure. And the humility of God is.
That for me is such a beautiful summary of what we've said. That from this image of God who demands, who wants you to behave a certain way, who's micromanaging your life,
who kills you if you screw up.
It kind of just gives us this picture of this insecure, skittish, dominant figure, whereas it seems like it's developed to this place of God's at peace. and he trusts me, and he gives me more power than what I think I can handle, and gives me the freedom to participate in the kind of life I want to. And in it all, he totally accepts the journey that I'm on.
Yeah,
totally
he's good with it.
embraces where I'm
That
at.
blows
And
my
his
mind.
guidance is almost more of a wooing
Yeah.
of an invitation
Yeah.
rather than let me give you the 3 steps.
Yes.
It's a wooing to really participate
Yes.
in these thoughts, in this journey. And
Thank you so much, my friend. Always a joy to converse and chat. We love you guys.
Yeah.